Good afternoon and welcome to our Year 4 Midterm Parent Webinar. Miss Dominique here, it's lovely to see you all, and I will be joined this afternoon by Mr. Rothwell, our Assistant Head. Hi Mr. Rothwell.
Hello Miss Dominique.
Nice to see you. So this afternoon what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be talking about where we are at this point in the year, what we've covered so far, and where it's going to take us to the end of Year 4 for your children. So let's get going. Let's have a little look. So now to Challenge Excel, I thought we'd start as ever with our school motto. Now our mission statement remains true today as it ever has, even more so in the current circumstances. The children have had a tough time so far in Year 4. We've had lots of movement. They have settled back into Year 4 beautifully. I can't thank you enough for your support. I know that we've had changing in teaching staff. We've been lucky enough to welcome Miss Chloe back. We had Mr. Rothwell, of course, doing a stint in Year 4, which was a wonderful opportunity for the children to enjoy having a male teacher as well. We've had our pod teacher, Miss Shanna. We've had classes in and out and in and out. That really hasn't stopped what we're here to do, as we say, to nurture, to challenge those children and to show how they're going to excel across Year 4. Now let's have a little look at what children need. These things don't change whether we're in school or outside of school. For me, there are 4 key elements that children need to progress and become that well-balanced, that rounded child. That's the love and support that they receive from you at home and from us as a teaching staff. Praise and recognition. It doesn't die as the children get any older. They still take such pride in their work, and that is something that we do really nurture them to take that pride in. And recognition. We might not have the big ceremonies that we normally have, but there are those moments, those children, their work will be recognised, be it by house points, be it certificates, just knowing that the work they're doing has value. And then there's responsibility. And this is something which we are focusing on quite a lot in Year 4, this responsibility and independence that comes with it. The children are responsible for their own learning. They are responsible for producing their work. You guys did an amazing job during home learning, and now they're moving into Year 4. They have to take responsibility, especially when in the afternoons their work is quite often independent. And it has to be down to them to make sure they have everything they need and to produce the quality of work that they know that we expect from them. And then there's new experiences, as Victory Heights, and I'm sure you will have seen from our Facebook and from what you hear from your own children. Just because we are in this situation where the children, yes, they do have to spend a lot more time in the classroom, then they're not lessening. The new experiences they're receiving aren't lessening. We are doing all we can to create those new experiences, be it in the difficult circumstances we've got. We're making use of the outdoor space, of the time we have, the staff that we have, the ECAs that we've most recently embarked upon, and just giving children constantly those new experiences they can have to keep wanting to come to school. So let's have a little look at what we are doing currently. Our current topics are, in our English, we are looking at persuasive writing. Our humanities is ancient Greece, which I'm hoping you have heard all about, because the children, it can be said, are truly loving the subject. In maths, we're covering fractions. In science, we're looking at states of matter. And our class text is Who Let the Gods Out? And this really has been a focus for us. In our first term, we chose a beautiful text set in Tudor England, but it was very rich. It was very deep for the children. And we felt as a team they weren't as engaged as they could be, in the book, whereas with this Who Let the Gods Out, they are fully immersed in the reading. We have only 2 chapters left of the book, and it can be said, I know from my class today, they're almost asking to withhold from reading it because they don't want to get to the end of the book, and that's what we want to do. And we've been able to use that to work in a cross-curricular way. We're linking the persuasive writing to the Greeks. Can they persuade? We're doing advertising. Can they persuade us to buy a mythical object? We're looking at it in many different ways. So it has been a wonderful topic, and we're carrying it on until the end of this term. Let's have a look. And let's have a little look. Let's look at writing in a little bit more depth into our English. Here I've just set out some of the expectations of writing. In Year 4, we we do build on a lot of the core skills that we have done lower down the school. But what we're doing now is it's our aim to get them prepared for the expectations of year 5. So I've popped a few things on which I feel are really important at the moment. We're getting the children to independently plan narrative and non-fiction text into paragraphs before they begin to write. And what we mean is organising their thinking, very much as in the skills of oracy when you're learning to talk. You know, even down in the FS years, they suggest that it's quite muddled, and it's all their ideas, it's the dynamics, it's everything that's there. But what we're trying to do now is we're trying to bring it together. We're trying to talk for learning. We're trying to put their thoughts in an organised manner. And what we're finding is we're using a lot of the skills where the children are building on their sentences. Once they can write excellent sentences, they can move on to longer paragraphs, and then they can build onto these extended pieces of writing. And I know that Miss Danielle from our English department, there's been a lot of discussion about the big write pieces that we produce. And it's been decided that moving forward, we'll be looking at work that the children are currently working on. And it's working on all these smaller skills before we just build into every 2 weeks, let's do a big write. And that's, I think, we'll really be able to see the progress using this manner. And then our editing and writing skills, that's something that they're also doing quite a lot at the moment. They're very easy to go, no, mine is perfect. No, I've checked it, miss. It's fine. It's got all my capital letters, my full stops, you know. And so what we've done, the piece of text that we've recently done about the Greeks, we swapped, we photocopied the children's work, we gave them another child's work, and it was interesting to see how critical they could be of somebody else's work. Those mistakes that they definitely don't make themselves. Here they were crossing out, suggesting more adventurous adjectives. And this is a skill that we will definitely need, because they will be able to look back on their own work. Does it make sense? We do a lot of reading aloud. Read it back to me. What do you think? When do you need to take a breath? All those kind of things. And it's that we're going to continue with as we move into our final terms. And as always, there is our SPAG focus. We'll be focusing on that again for the rest of the year, the core skills. We'll be moving on to hyperboles, conjunctions, and that will continue. We have SPAG elements of every English lesson, and then we have 2 specific SPAG lessons a week also. Let's have a little look. This is just a little example of what we have been doing over the year. We've done some newspaper reporting, which we linked to our Tudor text in King Henry. As I say, now we're on to persuasive writing. And as we move into our summer term, we're going to be looking at non-fiction texts. And what we're looking at is the layout of text in year 4. It's very much based about structure. And while we're doing the structure, we're thinking about how we're weaving in the complex features of language. Very much we want to step away from it being and this and that and he said and she said in almost a list-like format. We want to step away from that, put the children into the characters, to think about the empathy, to think about the settings, and to get that higher level language as they move into their final term. Handwriting always comes up. Handwriting. Why is it so important? And it's something in year 4 that we make a great effort to take a focus on. Presentation and handwriting. We are on the children all the time. They're very aware of their expectations, and that it has been that difficult transition from home learning where the children are used to working on a Chromebook. They're very confident working on a Chromebook, and we're trying to step away from the idea that writing is a chore. Obviously, writing, it stimulates the children's thoughts. It definitely improves their spelling, and we focus very much on the presentation. Now, it doesn't always have to be in cursive. As a school, Victory Heights is a cursive school, but what we're really focusing on is it being legible. Is it being clear? Is that the best work that you can produce? And this goes not just across English. We use these expectations for our presentation all across all subjects, especially in maths, where the children are very much, they're in their squared books, and they're very easily like cramming them into very small spaces, 1 square for 1 number. And that's definitely, if they're doing any work at home, I would definitely say, ask them to make sure it's presented correctly. Is that the best handwriting that you have got? We have handwriting practice, again, as part of our SOUL activities and our basic skills. And it might seem like a very old-fashioned way to do it, but the only way that it will improve is by practicing, we find mostly. So that's going to continue as we carry on with year 4.
I'd just step in there as well, Miss Dom. I completely agree with what you're saying, and having had the pleasure of working in year 4, it is noticeable that some of the children's handwriting sort of lets them down in a way that it becomes illegible to even read the thoughts that they've thought so carefully about putting on paper. And so it is something that, as you said, parents need to stress and really concentrate and focus on. It is a really important skill. And speaking from a technical perspective, I'm the head of technology here at the school, but I do still believe that having good and legible handwriting is so important, because you won't always have access to a computer, and sometimes you do need to take written notes. I've been in at university, for example, taking notes, and having legible and easy to read notes was vital for me in order to progress through university. I don't know what I would have done if they had been unable to comprehend. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I just wanted to pop in and say that, Miss Dom.
No, I completely agree, and thank you for your feedback. I tell the children this all the time. It is a life skill. I say, you watch me on every day, everything we do, we try to remove the Chromebooks from the learning as much as possible in our core subjects. I said, everything we do, you watch me, you watch me write on the board, write the date, write our notes, jot our thoughts down, do our brainstorming. I said, none of that is using a computer. It's on our whiteboards, we're writing on our desks, and it is even using the different ways of writing. It's not always have to be in a book, be it on our whiteboards, as I say, on the desks that we can use. Just gives the children that, great for their fine motor skills, and as I say, definitely a life skill which they'll need to carry through with them. So yeah, parents, if we could, I would say, please, when you have the opportunity, just remind them, just as we do, to try and keep that on track. And our expectations of writing. What I've done here is I've just popped a couple of pieces of work in just to give you an idea of what writing currently looks like in year 4. As I say, we are working on building up our sentence structure and our grammar and our vocab in order to complete those extended pieces of writing. And this is where we're currently at year 4. The picture that you can see on the left is where we're using a sentence strip, like a structure strip. So the children are able to organize their thoughts. Now, there's something that we see quite commonly in year 4, and what we're finding at the start of the year, they were very detailed. They were asking the children, they were giving them lots of bullet points to think of all the things that they need to include. And now we very much stepped away. They're getting the notes on the side are getting smaller and smaller, but it's giving the children an idea. Oh yes, I thought about that. Where should that go? Where does that make most sense when we're writing? And it is enabling the children to organize their thoughts and think about how long it should be. A lot of the children get very obsessed with, should it be a page? Should it be 3 lines? And we're saying to them, no, it needs to be all of your thoughts in a logical order, and let's work through that. So that's an example of the quality there. And on the right-hand side, that's our most recent big write. And actually, it was a chance where, again, we linked it to our Greek topic. They had to choose one of their gods. They had to find out all of their favorite stories about them. Then they had to imagine themselves as that god. So that, again, that cross-curricular link was great. And actually, a child in my class said to me, this is the most excited I've been about a big write. And for a year 4 child to be able to say that and not have that dread of, it's going to be a long, arduous piece of writing, is a real pleasure. That we're definitely going along the right tracks for that. Can I just say as well, if anyone's got any questions, if you just want to pop them in the chat and we'll answer any at the end. Sorry, Mr. Rothwell, I was to say that at the start. Okay, let's have a look. Let's move on from writing to reading. Now, reading is a huge focus at Victory Heights. It is something that we care very deeply about. And I know, as I say, Miss Danielle, our head of English, it is something that she is driving all across the school. We have been very lucky in our text. I say the first text that we chose in year 4 was a text that did have some complex language in it. That wasn't to say it wasn't enjoyed by the children. But this text that we have been doing in the second half, this Who Let the Gods Out, is a wonderful option. It's also a great idea for a text when we're using it in class. And this does have not just one book, there is 4 books in the series. So I know already the children are asking me to check with Miss Lees if number 2, 3 and 4 are already in. So I don't know how many copies we're going to have, but there are definitely some ideas for you to perhaps buy when we are done. As we move on, we're going to be moving to a non-fiction text, which will be a lovely change. And we're moving away from the history element and more into the geography element. And we're doing Shackleton's Journey. The books have arrived this week. They are beautiful. The drawing and the artwork inside Ernest Shackleton's journey across Antarctica, even to the point where he's drawn all 99 dogs that were pulling the sleds. The book is fantastic, and I'm sure that the children really, really will enjoy them. And what we've put here is reading vipers. In order to make the most of the text that we've got, we're using reading vipers, and they stand for, as you can see, vocabulary, inference, prediction, explaining, retrieval, sequencing, or summarizing. And what the children are doing, we're using these texts. They focus on these core skills. On a Sunday, they will focus on all of them, which will just give the teachers an idea. We'll summarize what's happened. Are we aware of what's going on in the text as the children move forward? And they're getting very used to answering these questions, to infer. It's a very tricky skill, which we've worked really intensely on in Year 4 this year. And the children are definitely starting to think of that higher level of inference. They're able to support their answers. Not so much, oh, yes, it was that, but oh, I'm not sure why. That was just my opinion. They're now using the text to justify. And even at an even higher level, the children are coming up with their own questions to ask each other. Show me this. Choose this item from the text, no longer being directed to the page to choose from. And their predictions, what they're thinking, again, this level of justification, this higher order thinking, all of this coming from this rich text. This is something we will be continuing. The children know what's coming. They see it every week, and it, building on these core comprehension skills is something that we have really seen. The level when we're producing our extended pieces of writing, the level has really risen.
I think as well, Miss Dom, if I can just butt in there as well. So if you're reading with your child at home, and that's certainly something we recommend that you do, these sort of things, asking them questions about the comprehension rather than just reading the sort of retrieval of facts and things like that, asking them, well, what do they mean by that? Asking them these questions that are linked to the comprehension will be really beneficial, because I know a lot of children will sort of start in Year 3 and 4, they'll really read at face value, and they'll see sort of sentences and they'll just treat it as it's written on the page, and they won't think beyond that. So for example, a book might refer to a man being in a monkey suit, which we might as adults know that that's sort of a slang reference to a tuxedo, but children sort of just read it at face value, and it looks a bit odd, but they daren't question why a man at a formal dinner is wearing a monkey suit. And it's just that sort of thing where just to think a little bit beyond what the author has put on. So that really, I think you will touch upon support at home later on in this presentation, Ms. Don, but just at this point, I thought it would be pertinent just to say that it would be a really beneficial thing for you to do when you're reading with your children, just to ask them those questions about explain this, retrieve that, summarize what's just happened, just so they're not just reading the words, they're not just decoding, that they're actually truly getting a grasp of what the book is actually all about.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And this level of talk, this is something, again, which goes across the subjects we talk about. Talk for reading, talk for reasoning, and maths is a big focus for us, again, as we move into oracy. So these opportunities, there is a lot that we assume that as adults, we do know there's a lot of adult humor in there, how we can break that down and get it onto a child's level. So absolutely, Mr. Offel, I agree. If there's anything that you can do, we're often asked, can I have additional work? Could you give me some this? Could you guide me to websites? And I'm an advocate. A child should be read to every single night, even if it's only 5 minutes. Our expectation in Year 4 is that children should be reading for 20 minutes a day. And we allow 3 20-minute slots a week for Eric time. Everybody reads in class. And it is getting to the point where the children, I see the same library books might come in and out of children's bags, knowing that they're not being read at home. So we allow these sessions when everything shuts off. Our Chromebooks are closed, the teacher's at their desk, and everyone's taking this time to read. And it's actually quite fascinating, since we've managed to timetable this into our extremely busy days, the response that we've had for children. When is it? Oh, I've read this book. I would have taken 2 weeks. I'd have had to extend it. I've read the 2 books. Oh, I love this author. And there is actually something quite nice about us not having to originally been in the library. Children often gravitate towards the same authors as we do as adults. I like that kind of genre. I go there. And Miss Lees has painstakingly done a fantastic job this term. What she's been looking at is books that the children have had previously, looking at their likes, looking at their dislikes, finding something similar but something challenging, looking into other areas, getting them away from those David Walliams books, the ones that they're always drawn to, or the picture books, and the princess even that we're still for. And it is giving the children, it's definitely broadening their horizons and their choices of reading. They're being aware of what other children are reading in the class, and they're reading again longer over a period of weeks. So I would, as I say, if there's anything you can do, one of the best advice I can give as a teacher is to read with your child. Allocate it 5-10 minutes. Be it yourselves, read as a family, read with a sibling even. If you're pushed for time, as I know time is very difficult. If they have an older brother or sister, give them the opportunity to read. Think about the voices that they use, the intonation. That's what they've loved about Who Let the Gods Out. There's been lots of teacher animation and some very interesting accents of an American Zeus and a Cockney Hermes, just to try and bring that story to life. And, they are watching with anticipation. That just shows that love of reading. As I say, that fear that the book's going to end shows that, this is how much we can easily engage the children in a good text.
Be a role model as well. Be a role model. Be a role model to children. Don't take yourself off this for 10 or 15 minutes and read. I remember when I was a child seeing like mum and dad reading even just the newspaper, and it was just like, oh, that's what people do. That's what I need to do. And mum and dad, my dad still reads about 3 books a week, and it's just being that role model to your kids. Remove yourself from a screen, even though like you might have a Kindle, which is great, but yeah, just keep showing them reading is cool.
Absolutely, I agree. And speaking of which, what I've attached here, and obviously we will share this so you can have a look on our next slide, is some 50 recommended reads for year 4. We have lots of these titles in our library selected by Miss Lees. And again, we've spoken about it, reading, if we don't have the copies in school of these things, make an event of it. Talk to your children about books they might want to read. Take them to the bookstore. Let them choose. They love nothing more than browsing the aisles, looking at the pictures. They're at a point where they're reading the blurb. They're thinking about it. We do a lot of inference from the front covers. What could it be about? Will this interest me? Make it a day out. Make it purposeful for them so that they want to continue reading. And now we will move on to our maths expectations. What I've attached here is the 2 links to our calculation policy. What I'd ask is you do have a look on the links, and what Mr. Alex has uploaded is the calculation policy for Victory Heights. And what that does, that shows us what we're learning and the methods that we're using to teach it. I know things have definitely changed since I was at school. They're changed as I've been a teacher as well. So what I know we've had, especially for the distance learners, this is a very useful tool to look at all the different ways, to look at how it might suit a different child. Everything is there for you. So please take the time, have a little look and see what your child will be covering and the way they will be covering it in year 4. Now, at the moment, we are working on fractions. Again, this is a really big point. I know I feel I'm going on and on about it. The children are tired of me telling them about their times tables. We practice them in school. I know they have fantastic opportunities to use TT Rockstars, but we still focus on that core rote learning. Now, as teachers, we are drilling into them. It is to make your life easier. The ones who are finding the tasks easier are the ones who are quickly able to do those times tables, be it doing them in the car of a morning, eating breakfast, 5-10 minutes of an evening, the difference that it makes to the work that they're doing, especially at the moment when they're working on fractions. And then we're going to be moving on to decimals. That is our next topic. So I would ask to give a big push. It is an expectation as part of the national curriculum that by the end of year 4, they know all the way through to their 12 times tables. And it's not just being able to recite them by rote, it's being able to apply them. That's obviously what we're doing across our maths. As a whole, we're looking at maths not just as concepts, not just as operations that they can form, but to have an understanding of maths, what maths is. That's what we're pushing with the children. We're not pushing them up and up and up and up. We're broadening them. We're taking that mastery wider, and that's what we really do need your support to help push these times tables. Mr. Rothwell, would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was nodding along furiously there. It's so important, and it's such an easy skill to develop at home as well. Like again, earlier on you mentioned about parents sort of asking for extra work and things like that, but like times tables, also number bonds as well to a certain degree, because I know that they're not always 100% secure in year 4. They're so easy to develop, and they do make an incredible difference. We only have a very small short-term memory, and if we happen to calculate a times table, we're trying to work out fractions and we don't have automatic recall of times tables, then it overloads our working memory, and so that's where children come into difficulty. And I know I was in your class earlier on when we were doing fractions, and there's still some children who can't do things like 3 times 4, and that's the skill that we really need to nail, because when we're looking at simplifying fractions, having that ability to look at common factors for both the fractions just makes it so simple to be able to do that. You're just learning a common technique, but without the times tables ability, you're never going to get there, because you're just overloading your working memory. So please, parents, times tables Rockstars is brilliant for it, and I know we can see who's been accessing it, and we can see their speed development and the amount of questions they get right and wrong. And it is one of those things that the children who play it the most and access it every day do get miles better at it. And some of the children don't want to do it because they don't get many questions right. But everything starts off in life being hard. We can't walk to start with, and then we walk in as we're nonchalantly walking around. Everything's hard to start with. We just need to persevere and plug through that.
I completely agree. And what we've included on the next page is, I say, we're doing a lot of the fluency questions. You know, we're getting the children involved in these methods, seeing how they can form. What I've just popped on here is a little example of what, say, if you have a look at the calculation policy, this might show you how we're doing things, and it shows you different ways. We might use a part whole model. We might use a place value chart, and it just shows us these of why we're using them, why we're teaching them this way, and how we can adapt them for different children. And then I've put an example of what we're working on as year 4. We're working very much, we've got our fluency, we're on our problem solving, and then we're on reasoning. And this is where that language comes in again, the talk for reasoning that we were talking about earlier on. Being able to justify their answers, reasoning, thinking, okay, yeah, I know he's right. Yeah, he's definitely right. Great. Tell me why. Show me why. And the more ways that children have the ability to show us this, we did division with partitioning, not just the week before half term. The children were like, oh, goodness me, this is a lot of information to take in, but you've taught us one method, miss. Why we're learning another way? What about this way? Why don't we just use that way? And we've discussed, as we've seen this week, working with a range of different numbers, how all of these skills, how they might be suited to different questions, and it is helping them with those reasoning questions. And that's going to be our focus as we move to the end of year 4. As I say, the idea is that they are working more quickly through those frequency questions. They're really securing and concreting the operations that we're teaching them and the skill sets, and they're moving on to more of that language base, that justification. And we've just got a little example here. And we're using the because. You know, it's right, I agree with because. Is it true or false? It's true because. And these are things that the children, the way our maths program set up, again, the children know what's coming every day. We do a lot of very, on the spot justification, those quick questions. And alongside this, we are still focusing on their mental maths. That quick, that high speed, they're times that we'll take out when the children are packing up at the end of the day. They might be 5 or 10 minutes that we as teachers take as they're filtering in of a morning as well. So again, those opportunities, quick maths, quick fire questions, keeping them thinking. Again, any opportunities that you get to do that at home, please please do so.
When they go shopping, get them to add up what they've purchased.
Yes, especially if it's their own pocket money they're spending. I popped on our next slide just some expectations of what we're going to be covering for the end of the year. We're going to be looking at measure, we're going to be looking at time. There's going to be some geometry. You can have a little look at that as we go through. And then we're looking at our expectations in oracy. Now, oracy is a big factor, again, up there with reading for Victory Heights. I know Miss Laura is, again, she is pushing advocacy, oracy across the whole school, and its purpose is to, you know, again, build that well-rounded child, to build confident speakers. You know, you're not going to find every child that's ready to stand on the stage and perform. It's about making children comfortable in their own setting, thinking about making eye contact, thinking about their own voice, telling their own story. Again, we use the IT opportunities which we've got, which are fantastic. The children reading, modelling, again, modelling. We as teachers, we're constantly reading to them. The expression, the intonation, and then we're asking them to do the same. They might sit out in the pod area with their reading book, recording themselves, thinking about the voices and the pitch that they're using. We use this slant and shape, and it's thinking again. I say it covers quite a lot. If Mr. Arthur, you can make that. Miss Dominic can't see very well. If you can make that would help me.
I know about these. I made the posters. So both of these models come from a book called Teach Like a Champion, which by an educationalist called Doug Lemov, and they're basically sort of chants, I suppose, in order for children to be able to develop their oracy skills. So we tell children they need to sit up straight, they need to listen, ask and answer appropriate questions, and nod and track the speaker. And that is one thing that, like, I know when I'm speaking to staff at school, is that you're looking for people who are nodding along, and if you move, that their head moves with you, and that is so important. And it's a skill that actually needs to be developed. It's not something that you're sort of born to do, but you need to make the speaker know that you're listening to them. And then we talk about, in terms of their speaking, that we speak in full sentences. We don't speak with our hand over our mouth. We articulate and we don't mumble, and we speak loudly. And sometimes some children are very shy and they sort of talk very quietly like this. And we try and promote them speaking loudly and confidently and looking people in the eye. That's so important. And all of these things, and we are a massive push behind oracy at the school, because being able to confidently project your ideas and your thoughts is what we need in a modern world. It is the true 21st century skill, because you can have great ideas and you can have great thoughts and you can want to share them, but if you can't share them eloquently, then no one's going to get an understanding of what you're trying to say. And we look at role models, perhaps like Greta Thunberg, who was able to stand up and eloquently explain her thoughts, and look where that's taken her. Someone like Malala Yousafzai as well. These young child role models, and it's that having that skill and that ability to be able to talk. And we're not expecting every child to be able to stand in front of a large audience and speak, but through developing these skills in class or on their own and talking to a camera, it certainly does help improve them and be able to express themselves clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I've just shown some examples here of some of our boys in year 4. We've got Cohen and James here, where they've actually been drafting persuasive arguments to sell a pair of trainers this week, and they've been working on drafting their ideas and then voicing them, thinking about the language they might use, and that powerful language accompanied with that powerful voice, to really get their, you know, that persuasion across. And to say they're recording themselves in a quiet area, and they're playing it back, thinking, do I sound, you know, am I selling it enough? Listening to other children in the class, oh, there's a slightly more persuasive, how can I improve that? And that's linking their oracy and their writing skills together, which we were talking about before, where it's all interwoven. And support at home. This is a very interesting document, and it shows about the children and their reading and how long they read for. We spoke earlier about reading for 20 minutes a day, and the amount of words that they will hear and that they will have read are actually quite phenomenal from those who read for 20 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute. We're looking at 851 against 42. And I think, for me, as a teacher and as an adult, those statistics speak for themselves. So we really push that reading daily. Then there's the spellings. We send our spellings home. They are attached to our blurb and they are on our homework document. Again, I know a lot of the children, they are coming in, they're very proud what they get in their spellings. I get, 10 out of 10, that's their drive. But what we're finding is a lot of the children, when they're coming back for our spellings, are saying, but Miss, what does that mean? Oh, could you tell me what it means? And obviously, if we're doing homophones, for example, like we put those words into context, into sentences, and the children are finding it difficult. So what I would ask, while you're going through those spellings with your children, please take the time, if they don't understand it, to explain to them, to perhaps put it in a sentence, to ask them to try and put it in a sentence of their own. So there really is that understanding, and it's not just that word, on its own in isolation. It needs to be contextualized. So that's one thing we would ask for. Again, times tables, talking about your day. The opportunity for teacher-parent talk is so restricted. There are parents I might see every evening on the door, literally for hello. There's others of you who, unfortunately, I don't get to see a lot. But the children we focus so much time on them expressing their thoughts. Their mornings are filled with telling me what they've been doing. We start our Sunday morning off every week with what they've been doing at the weekend, any anniversaries they've got coming up, and birthdays and celebrations and things that they've been doing. And I know that quite often, and I know this when I taught in FS, when your child will come home and say, what did you do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We played. Oh yeah, I spoke to him, or I sat near to them. But I think you need to, if we can take that time out, again, phones down, just as we spoke about with the books, chat to your children about what they're doing. I know, for example, as I say, this love of this topic of Greece. Are they telling you about the story? I had one parent come and said, oh, I feel like I need to read this book. I haven't stopped hearing about it. But taking that time out to take that step back, listen to what's been, engaging them. There is, we still want to create those magical moments where taking things out in school, we're making sure that things are as exciting for them and as practical as can be in the circumstances, whether it's building catapults in STEAM or painting Tudor paintings or building circuits in science. All of these are things that they're not doing in the classrooms every day that might, excite your children. Listen to them. Just take the time to ask them what they've been doing. Be specific. What do you do in science? Oh, you're looking at this. And this kind of overview, just giving you an idea of what's coming up, just so that you can think about the type of questions you might ask as you go along. And another one, telling the time. It comes up all the way through to year 6. It's always on the year 6 stats papers. Telling the time, we see it every day in our flashback 4, and we will be focusing on time as we move into the next few weeks. But again, this is something, if you take any opportunities at home, telling the time and difference of time. Okay, great, you can tell me it's 10:30. Can you tell me what time it's going to be in half an hour, in 45 minutes? And the different ways we can talk about time. It's 15 minutes past, it's 1/4 and 1/4. Just that language, that constant development of language with what we see as adults as something which we simply take for granted, but we were taught to do it. It's a skill that we learned, and it's exactly the same for our children. And then, housekeeping. Sorry, this is the slight moan. Headphones. We are seeing more and more children come in without headphones. For their afternoon activities, they often involve the children accessing classes that may be on their Chromebooks. They could be recording for Arabic. Obviously, we are in a more confined space, so they are using their headphones to focus on their own work and not be disturbed by other children. They don't need to be a fancy pair. Any cheap pair will do. If they need to be left in their tray, it can be left at school. But we don't have any spare pairs here, so the children who don't have them aren't able to use some of the activities that we've set up. So please, 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 if you can ensure that your child has a set of headphones. Charging of the Chromebooks is the same. And for me, as a year 4 lead, bringing the Chromebooks in. is another one. This leads it with responsibility. I say to the children, oh, my nanny didn't, oh, no, it's your responsibility to bring your Chromebook to school. I say to them every day, if Miss Don came with no things, would I be able to teach you? No. Oh, but I forgot to charge it. We have very, very limited space to charge it. And obviously we're limited to social distancing regulations and where laptops can and can't be charged. We no longer have a supply of Chromebooks, again, due to the COVID circumstances that we can give out to children, which means work has to be printed out, which means they can't access all of the wonderful work that we have set up for them. And again, just a little housekeeping about stationery, pencils, rulers, rubbers. They go missing all the time. Home learning, I do post the children are allocated to a seesaw group, which has our year 4 homework on it. Again, then we put a maths activity on that's linked to our learning for the previous week, and we put an English bag activity on. They are there for you. They are choice, perfect. If you do get the time to do them, great. Any additional work that's done in home is always going to benefit your child. But if time is constrained, then what I would say is please just focus on the reading, spellings and times tables, those old school bread and butter, as Miss Sasha would say, those old school skills and stuff. I know I was talking to Miss Danielle about this. The belongings that coming into school are going to soon require a suitcase. We have toys, art supplies that I've never even seen. We've got pencils and we've got clay, we've got all kinds of things that the children aren't going to need. They're housed all over the classrooms, and they really don't need. Their bags are bulging. There's no storage, there's no cubby holes like we used to have. Their bags are on the back of the chairs, which are now quite often tipping over due to the amount of things they're bringing to school. So please, 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 if we can ensure they just have their snack and lunch, their pencil case with their belongings in, and obviously their library or reader books, and try and keep it to that as well. That would be perfect. Thank you.
Seeing the children get out of the cars at the front with bags, I take Les to go to England for 3 weeks in the summer.
Yeah, I think it's a competition of the bag. I know they take pride in, oh, I brought this and this and this, and it's like a Mary Poppins bag. I'm wondering what's going to come out next.
I'm glad you touched on the responsibility thing, because children in year 4 now really should be having a lot of responsibility for their own things, packing their lunch and stuff like that. We still get children, oh, I haven't got my snack or something, oh, because my maid didn't put it in. I think we need to treat responsibility as a life skill, and start making sure that they make sure their Chromebook and things are plugged in, because ultimately we can't tell your maid off if they forget to plug your Chromebook in. We want to embed that skill in your children. So please do let them organise their own life, because it will become invaluable for them in the future.
Yeah. Completely agree. And I've just popped on the next slide just some of the upcoming events. It's actually going to be quite a busy next few weeks for year 4. We've got sports day next week on the 1st of March. We've got, in fact, that says red and green, but it's actually, that's my mistake, it's actually red and blue class on the 1st of March. On the 2nd of March, it is yellow, pod and green classes. Unfortunately, you won't be able to attend this year. We will ensure that we will post as many photos onto their seesaw, and you can have a look on social media. I've been listening to the sports days that have gone on this week. It is fantastic. The hall and the Astro are filled with balloons and music, and really trying to recreate that vibe that unfortunately we can't have as we usually do. We've got World Book Day next week on the 4th of March. Your children are to choose a word and they are going to dress accordingly. Miss Danielle will be sending more details out about that. And we have been informed today that year 4 are going to be doing their whole year group assembly on the 11th of March, which will be live streamed. So please expect some emails from us as teachers. We might be looking for props, some support. I know there's some arts and crafty mums and dads out there. So please, please, please support us where you can. And thank you very much for taking this time. If anyone has any questions, please pop them in the chat and we'll certainly try to answer them.
We don't appear to have any questions at the moment, Miss Dom. I'm very impressed. We've only taken 45 minutes, which is 50% longer than most of the other year leaders. But for you, I'm taking that as a win.
For me, I mean, this must be the shortest period of time I've ever spoken for.
Most people will be out of breath speaking for 45 minutes. You're just getting into your flow. Just
rolls off the tongue.
But yeah, thank you. It does appear that we don't have any questions coming in. So thank you very much for your time in doing this. I was very impressed hearing you speak. You've got so much care and love for your year group, and I'm sure that's come across to the parents who tuned in today. And your knowledge of the year group is amazing. And I'm truly of the belief that the year 4 children are thriving under your leadership and the care of all of the teachers in year 4. So thank you very much for your time. There's still no questions, so I think we're going to bring this to an end now, Miss Dominique. Thank you to the parents who tuned in. It will be available on YouTube recording if you want to view it back at any point, just maybe the bits that you missed or anything like that, or share it on parent WhatsApp groups to parents who were unable to attend in person. So I think with that, Miss Dominique, I think we shall bid everyone farewell.
Thank you very much for joining me as well, Mr. Rothwell, and for your IT support as ever.
Always. Thank you very much, and goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.